Imagine rushing into a hospital, desperate to get help for your loved one, only to be met with cold indifference. That's exactly what happened to a hardworking Black mother who needed urgent care for a health crisis. She was turned away by a dismissive doctor who didn't just refuse to listen. He let prejudice cloud his judgment. But here's where the story takes a surprising twist. What this doctor didn't know is that the woman's son, quietly watching from the sidelines, wasn't just an ordinary man. He was the hospital's newest major investor. His influence could change everything about how this institution operates, especially when it comes to fairness and respect. Will justice finally be served? And what happens when the tables turn on the doctor who underestimated them both? Stay tuned, because this story is about to get very interesting. The doctor's sharp words hung in the air as the mother's plea was brushed aside. She had come to the hospital out of sheer necessity, hoping for compassion, but instead she was met with cold arrogance. Her son, standing quietly nearby, clenched his fists. He could feel his mother's pain, not just from her illness, but from the humiliation she was enduring. What the doctor saw was just another patient, someone he felt he could dismiss without a second thought. What he didn't see was the strength of a son who had worked his way up from nothing, now holding a position of power that could reshape the very institution this doctor worked for. As they walked out of the room, the son's mind raced. This wasn't just about his mother's health anymore. It was about something much bigger. Something had to change. As they left the hospital room, the mother's eyes filled with quiet frustration, but her son saw something else. A lifetime of resilience and strength she rarely showed. She had faced struggles before, but this time was different. This was supposed to be a place where people were cared for, not judged. The son couldn't shake the doctor's dismissive tone. He thought about the patients who didn't have someone like him to speak up for them. How many others had walked away from this same hospital, their voices unheard and their dignity ignored? Meanwhile, back in the office, the doctor continued his day without a second thought about the woman he had turned away. To him, she was just another patient. But the staff around him started whispering. Word was spreading. An important visitor had been in the building, and he wasn't happy. Something big was brewing. The son made a few calls, his calm voice masking the storm brewing inside him. He wasn't one to act impulsively, but this was personal. As a major investor, he had the power to call an urgent meeting with the hospital's leadership, and now was the time. He didn't mention the encounter with his mother, not yet. Instead, he asked for a review of patient care practices and demanded the attendance of all key staff, including the doctor who had dismissed her. In the meantime, the doctor started to sense that something was off. The whispers among his colleagues grew louder, and he noticed unusual activity in the administration wing. It was only when his name appeared on a list of required attendees that he began to worry. The mother, unaware of her son's plans, sat quietly at home. She trusted him, but she couldn't imagine how her quiet humiliation would ripple through the walls of that hospital. The day of the meeting arrived, and the hospital's leadership team gathered in the boardroom, curious about the sudden urgency. The doctor entered last, trying to mask his unease. He had no idea why he was being summoned, but the weight of the whispers and sideways glances left him uneasy. As the son walked in, the air shifted. His presence commanded attention, but it wasn't just his authority that silenced the room. It was the look in his eyes. Calm, measured, but sharp, as if he could see through every facade. He began with an unexpected announcement. A new initiative would be launched to evaluate patient treatment and ensure accountability at every level. Then he turned directly to the doctor. "Some of you may not realize the impact of your decisions," he said. The doctor shifted uncomfortably. But just as the room grew tense, another voice interrupted. It was someone unexpected, someone who carried a secret that could change everything. The room fell silent as the voice cut through the tension. It was a nurse who had worked at the hospital for years, her tone steady but firm. She recounted witnessing the doctor's treatment of the mother that day, her words painting a vivid picture of the indifference and disregard. The doctor's face turned pale as all eyes turned to him. The son, still composed, finally spoke. "That woman you dismissed so easily. She's my mother, and her story is one of many that will no longer be ignored here." His voice, though calm, carried a weight that left no room for argument. The doctor stammered an apology, but the damage was done. The son announced immediate changes, starting with mandatory training on empathy and fairness. The doctor would face consequences for his actions, but the final twist came when the nurse revealed that the mother had once worked at this very hospital, dedicating years of her life to helping others. The son looked around the room. This isn't just about one person. It's about creating a place where everyone is treated with respect. Starting today, that's the hospital we'll build. The meeting ended with a quiet resolve in the room. Changes were no longer just words on paper. They were promises backed by action. The son walked out, his heart heavy but determined. He knew this was just the beginning, but he also knew his mother's experience had sparked something bigger, a movement toward real accountability and care. Back at home, he sat with his mother, sharing what had unfolded. She listened, a mixture of pride and disbelief in her eyes. "I didn't need revenge," she said softly, "just change." Her words stayed with him, a reminder of why he had fought so hard. The hospital, once a symbol of indifference, began transforming into a place where every patient mattered. And as for the son, he realized that sometimes the most powerful change comes from standing up for those who've quietly endured too much for too long.